I love the movie Rosemary's Baby, and I was always very intrigued with how the baby would look since they never fully showed the baby, and the black crib and everything in the living room was just gorgeous to me. So I always wanted to have a little demon baby in a black crib in my living room. Now I do. So
It's a collection that might have some people running for the hills. More than 500 dolls, each one scarier than the next. Marilyn Mansfield of New York City has spent tens of thousands of dollars on the uniquely horrifying collection over the last 10 years. She takes care of them like they were her children.
they really are like a part of the family.
Luckily for her, everyone in the house, her husband and 2 children, are also into the collection. Can you imagine how hard it would be to wake up here if you weren't?
The first time I had seen a Crypt Kitty like this one was at a horror convention, and I fell in love with how it looks so kind of demonic but yet cute. And I've always been like into horror movies and stuff like that, so I just thought it was a perfect combination of scary and cute mixed together. And I'm a huge fan of dolls, been collecting them my whole life, so it was like everything in one. This is actually my first handmade Crypt Kitty, they're called. And this is little Marilyn Mansfield that my husband had made to look like me. What intrigues me about the demon babies and the horror babies is that they're complete fantasy. I mean, obviously, babies don't have horns and fangs and things, but, they're just fun. To me, it's just fun, and it's a piece of art, because they are created by hand and all painted by hand. And it's really like, just like a macabre piece of art to me. My horror collection is pretty extensive. I have, I would say, about 20 handmade Crypt Kitties, and they were all within hundreds of dollars. So they do get expensive. Now I make the zombie babies, which are reborns that I kind of zombify. So now I can make my own and stuff. To me, though, Crypt Kitties are the best when it comes to the horns and fangs and everything. So, I mean, if I wanted one like that, I would totally just get another Crypt Kitty. My favorite one is Carol Ann. She's a Crypt Kidlet, and yeah, she was kind of pricey. I got her years ago, and she was $800. The horror-related reborns and the more natural-looking reborns, the same care goes into both of them. I mean, they have to, be dusted, and I change them. The hair has to be brushed, conditioned, that sort of thing. It depends, though, like if they have a wig or rooted hair. It's like all different things. The eyes you might want to clean with like a damp Q-tip. Just little things like that, just to keep them in pristine condition, which I do. So it's usually some part of the day every day because there's just so many of them. And to do them all in one day would just be way too much. So there's not a day that goes by that I'm not doing something with the dolls. It's every single day. I remember one time I was walking with Chucky, and someone asked me, what would you do if Chucky came alive? And I said, I'd be thrilled. I was never like one of those scared kids or anything. I would wish they would come alive. It's probably weird to some people, but that's just me.
It's your first look inside the house known as the Portal to Hell, a place where demons supposedly wrought havoc with a helpless family in horror straight out of The Exorcist.
That the power of Christ compels you!
This man just bought the notorious house in Gary, Indiana for the bargain basement price of $35,000.
What compelled you to buy this house?
I have a passion for investigating claims of paranormal.
Zach Bagans is the host of the Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures. We spoke inside the front porch, the precise spot where a terrorized mom claims that horseflies mysteriously swarmed in the dead of winter, as they did in the Amityville Horror. Then there was that mysterious figure that appeared in the window when the house was supposed to be empty. This is the other side of that window.
There are reports that there was a residue that would come down the blinds.
It was horrible.
This is the woman who lived in the House of Horrors with her 3 children before Zach Bagans bought it. Latoya Ammons fought back tears when she told us how they fled in terror after her daughter was raised right off her bed. She says the demons sounded like this.
We've waited 5
months. It sounded like something dead.
She says she anointed the rooms with holy oil and read aloud from the Bible, but the nightmare went on and listened to a sound that cannot be explained by police, who looked into the mysterious goings-on. While two cops are talking in the basement, someone can be heard saying, "Hey." And brace yourself for what LaToya says happened to her son when she and her mom took him to the hospital. It's right out of the movie Poltergeist.
He walked up the wall and did the backwards flip.
How did everybody in the hospital react to your son walking up the wall?
They took off and they ran. The doctor from the psych ward said that's not real. That's not human. No human can do that.
Speaking of deep, mysterious voices,
You in there!
those are the chilling words Captain Charles Austin will never forget. The 36-year veteran of the Gary, Indiana Police Department had just finished investigating strange occurrences in the house and was in his patrol car talking on the phone when he says something bizarre happened.
All of a sudden, while I'm involved in this conversation, the AM/FM radio went to static and turned up very loud. And it said, "You in there?" And the person on the phone say, "What the hell was that?" And I say, "I don't know."
What was your reaction?
I was in shock.
Enter Father Michael Maginot, a local priest who got permission from the Bishop of Gary, Indiana, to perform an exorcism on LaToya.
Did you at one point believe this house was the portal to hell?
There was a portal.
LaToya moved out of the house and now lives many miles away. She knows her story is hard to believe.
Some people claim that you made this all up, that this was some sort of an elaborate hoax. Is this a hoax?
No, I don't feel that someone will have a reason to make something up like that.
Do you believe that house is possessed by demons?
I do. I feel that it's something very bad going on in that house.
There is something special about Charleston.
People don't like to leave Charleston, even when they die.
Some of the nation's most beautiful homes are in Charleston. They're hundreds of years old, and yet many believe their original owners are still hanging around. The James English house stayed in his family for 7 generations, and yet descendant Elizabeth Lucas is quite sure she's encountered long-lost limbs from the family tree.
I have heard the parties downstairs on the first floor.
Ghost parties?
I assume they were ghost parties. In the middle of the night, I would hear them walking around on the wooden floors. I would hear them slamming doors. I would hear them walking all the way up to the 3rd floor. And when they would get to this step, I would say, "Who's there?" And they would just...
Sally Weil, who spent a lot of time in the house, was a skeptic, but says she has changed her mind.
I would come in the front, the porch, and on the way in there were 4 or 5 rockers along the porch, and just one of them would be rocking. The rest were not moving. I was told that this was the one chair that Mrs. Lucas sat in regularly every afternoon to rock.
Another ghostly Charleston place, the Swordgate House, an old 1700s mansion that in the 1800s served as a school for very proper girls. They were locked behind iron gates and imposing brick walls to keep out amorous men.
In the case of Marie Whaley, she was sent here because of a relationship with a suitor that wasn't proper for the family.
The lovesick Miss Whaley climbed the wall, sneaked off to marry her man, and thereby wrecked the school's reputation.
After the school shut down, the elegant old mansion sat empty for a long time, until eventually it found a new incarnation as the Swordgate Inn.
Walter Barton ran the place, but started hearing complaints from guests, like a pair of honeymooners.
It was the 3rd night, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, very frightened, they left the hotel and went to another one.
The husband later blamed their departure on
my ghost and how it scared his wife.
The old place is shut down again for now. The ghosts, whom Barton says he's heard, have the run of the place. So, somewhere amid the dust and memories of centuries gone lies the answer to the question, are these old mansions truly the playgrounds of ghosts or of people's imaginations?
I told my mom I thought I saw a werewolf, and my mom believed me.
It was walking along a good probably 7 to 10 seconds before it had turned its head.
That thing, that was no dog. That was too big to be a dog. That thing was bigger than me.
That thing was stalking cornfields, jumping on cars, and feasting on roadkill. For 2 years, people in Elkhorn, Wisconsin whispered about a king-sized creature who roamed Bray Road.
It had really big claws. It was holding its roadkill like it had elbows, and it was kneeling on 2 knees, like a human being might do.
Eerie stories like that prompted Linda Godfrey, a reporter and cartoonist, to investigate. It was all just too bizarre not to be for real.
When you live in a small town and you say you've seen something that looks like a dog man or a wolf man, you know, you're going to get some ridicule, and they did. So they had no reason to say this.
Despite the ridicule, beast believers came forward in Godfrey's Beast of Bray Road article, like Doris Gibson, who'd seen it on Halloween night 1991. Driving down Bray Road, she had gotten out of her car when she thought she had hit an animal.
It was foggy out and I was a little bit afraid. And this big thing come just like trucking, you know? Just trucking down the road at me, man. I looked at it and I'm like, ah! And I got back in the car. You know, and before I peeled off, that thing scratched the back of the car.
Tom Brichta's car was also scratched by the creature from Bray Road.
My adrenaline started pumping. I was scared.
But this is a creature that likes to cross county lines. Tom saw it twice on Route 106.
We were having a good time and stuff. We were singing to the oldies and jamming out and stuff. And then all of a sudden I noticed this on the side of the road.
He was big and he looked intimidating. I was scared of his appearance.
Back on Bray Road, Lori Andreezy remembers her close encounter with the creature in 1990.
I saw it kneeling on the side of the road, and it was eating something. And I came up from behind it, and I slowed down because I thought it was a person at first. So I came up from behind it, and I realized it wasn't a person when I saw its pointy ears.
From those descriptions, Linda drew up this composite picture of the beast. All agreed it was very big, with pointy ears and broad-chested with a shaggy coat streaked with silver, gray, or black.
It had brought its right hand up, stopped, looked over by the car, real nonchalant, and made eye contact with both Scott and I, and gave like this sneer, like it was challenging us. Like, you know, what are you gonna do about it? You know, I'm here, you're there. I'm bigger than you are. You can't do anything about it.
But with all the sightings, no one knew if it was man, beast, or even a combination of the two. One person simply called it God's mistake.
I would assume that what they saw was some sort of an animal, probably dog-like in nature, either a loose dog or a coyote.
I just said, it's a big animal, and it's upset. It's really upset.
If werewolves do exist, this is probably a werewolf.
Hey, what are you doing? Once the W word was spoken, werewolf mania broke out in Elkhorn. T-shirts were gobbled up and personal capture permits were issued courtesy of Hairy Face. Even the local bakery made Beast of Bray Road cookies, touting them as werewolf cookies that will make you howl. Letters came pouring in. One in particular sent chills down Linda's spine.
He said it was too large to be a wolf. It had a terribly unkempt look to its fur, wild, not normal.
Elaine Bushman was describing what her husband Robert had witnessed in 1991. The Bushmans live in St. Nazian and were just passing through town when Robert spied the creature. They knew nothing of the beastly tales that haunted Elkhorn.
I've never seen anything that would be dirty enough and for some reason or other scary enough to make you feel the hair lift up on your arms, you know?
So, is it a dog, coyote, or werewolf? Believe what you will, but just remember, it's here, just waiting.
These days, when one thinks of ghosts, it's something like this. Or when one thinks of mediums or channeling, it's more like this.
Did he know someone by the name of Anna?
Consuelo? Lucita?
But that was before James Van Praagh.
The lady standing over here, I think it's your mom. We'll find out more about it, but she just appears. There's also another lady behind her, which I believe would be her mother.
Right. This California channeler is the hottest thing this side of the great beyond. He's dazzling followers and skeptics alike with what he calls his ability to speak with the dead.
There is no such thing as death. Love continues. There are homes over there. There are trees over there. There are flowers and gardens. To them, we're the ghosts. They come down to this lower vibrations, denser earth world, and they can walk through walls, and they see us as forms. They don't see us solid. That's where you go when you pass over to a real solid world.
The 39-year-old Van Praagh's best-selling book, Talking to Heaven, A Medium's Message of Life After Death, has sold more than 600,000 copies. But before the book started climbing the charts, Van Praagh made his living selling videotapes and delivering mass readings. He says he learned he had a special gift in the first grade.
I said to my teacher, Mrs. Weinleck, I went up to her and I said, "It's okay, John is fine, your son is fine. He just broke his leg, but he'll be fine." And she said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "There was a car, he was hit by a car." About an hour later, the principal came in. She called out the teacher. The teacher came in crying. After school, she said to me, her son John was in a car accident. He was hit by a car. And she said, "You were right, his leg was broken."
But as they say, seeing is believing, so I decided to give it a try. Soon, Van Praagh says he was talking with my mother, who passed away when I was in college.
Your mother's speaking very, very strong, very, very fast, very, very quickly, and she's strong. I feel like her personality is a bit strong, too.
Yep,
okay?
that's Mom.
She said, "I'm with her all the time. I'm with her all the time." And she said, yes, she has flowers in her house. There are flowers there in the house. And I want to go to your living room. And there's something there with the pattern with the flowers.
No, not in the living room.
Where is it?
The sitting room.
The sitting room. Because this is where your mother is with you.
Cool.
It is conceivable that everything Van Praagh said to me could have been gleaned from news articles on me over the years. Even so, he surprised me a bit.
When you're in the kitchen, do you ever think, like, do you ever get a feeling when you're standing there in the kitchen of your mom? Because she said to me, I'd come to her in the kitchen, and I don't know what it means.
That's because that's usually where I am, probably.
Okay, and one more thing. Who's Kathy?
My sister.
Okay. She wants to give love.
But until that day, Van Praagh had never heard of Norma Messing. She wanted to contact her Aunt Ruth, whose 1991 murder has never been solved. First, though, Van Praagh says some other relatives turned up.
Who's Helen?
My first husband's mother.
Okay. She knows of you, and Helen wants to give you her love.
Van Praagh says he then saw Norma's aunt. He had been told she was murdered, but nothing else.
She was gasping for air. She's gasping for air. I will tell you this, I feel like they hit her. They hit her first. And I feel she puts her hands up, which is weird. I get the putting hands up. Was she killed with hands?
She was struck, first beaten with a cane. She
That's
raised her arm, probably
that's what we got.
because her arm was broken, and then she was strangled.
Okay. That's the gasping. Was she found in the bedroom, or in the bedroom, or right in the floor of the bedroom, or something?
Yes.
She said that. She sent me that thought, yeah? There were two people involved with this, okay? There were two people involved, and she did not know these people.
So what do you think? Norma feels something did happen here.
I could not believe some of the dead-on stuff that he had. Getting my first mother-in-law first, getting the picture of my first husband.
When we do a successful communication, and the person realizes they are communicating with their loved one, and there indeed is no death, they can start to begin their life, and the grief is eliminated. The fear of death is eliminated.
Van Praagh knows he'll always face skeptics, but he believes he has a gift that needs to be shared.
Wouldn't it be a sin to keep it to myself and not share it with people?